I tested every single weapon against a great Izuchi in the beginner level here to see which weapon works for me and how all of the weapons compare to each other. Starting with the Greatsword. The Greatsword is really strong. The only big drawback for the Greatsword for me is that it's really slow as well, which makes sense. I mean, look at how heavy this weapon is. You honestly have to be standing directly in front of an enemy to hit them, so sometimes you feel like an idiot and you're just stuck in like one point missing a lot if you're especially like me. But when you do end up having an enemy who's just lined up in front of you, you do end up whacking out big numbers compared to all of the other weapons that you can use in the game. So it's actually really strong. I would actually put this at a kind of average level player kind of class or weapon to use because it's not that difficult to use, but it does have its challenges. Looking at the next weapon, the longsword. The longsword is probably one of my harder weapons to actually learn to use because it just acts super weird. It has low numbers, so its attacks are actually very low damage compared to the greatsword. It does attack a little bit faster, but it feels a lot harder to aim because it has like a hectic reach and it like hits right in front of it. And it's very hard to kind of like angle left and right, and one of its attacks does this thing. I'm not sure what that actually means. I keep thinking it's like a defensive thing. I haven't figured it out yet. If you guys do know, let me know in the comments below what that kind of like stringy like spider web thing actually does. Is it a defense thing? Like, what am I supposed to do with it? But apart from that, I would say the longsword is actually more for like an experienced player, or you need to know exactly what you're doing. I wouldn't recommend this for a beginner because me as a beginner myself, I actually kind of got my ass kicked using this weapon a few times because it's kind of difficult to get the grasp of, at least for me. I mean, the one attack that I like here is the stabbing attack, but I keep getting my ass whacked around. I mean, I get that it's because I probably didn't dodge, but it was one of the hardest kind of weapons that I had to play with. Looking at the sword and shield weapon build here, or class, is actually really damn good. This is probably one of my top class weapons that you can find in the game so far from what the demo has presented, because one of your attacks immediately lets you be able to take a monster out as soon as you engage it and be able to ride it like immediately. Like, how cool is that? Like, immediately, like one button, one kind of wire bug, and bam, you're on the back of a monster. That's pretty dope. For its actual attacks, it does decent damage, the same as about a kind of like a longsword's damage kind of amount, but it's very agile, which is what I like about it. It's such an agile kind of class. Like, you can run around an enemy, smack it quite a bit there. You have a lot of like maneuverability, and you're very mobile as using this weapon, the sword and shield. It's actually one of the best ones that I've played with. Actually, probably the most like mobile class that I've played in this game so far. I really like it. I would recommend this one for any new player. Speaking about agile weapons, we also have the dual blades, which is very agile, and it is able to pop out damage really quickly, but the numbers are quite low, so in essence it's actually not very high damage, but it is very fast kind of damage because you're going to be getting many hits out. It feels like you are doing a ton of work, but sometimes the numbers are really low, so you have to like really be careful with how you play this class because you kind of are weaker than a lot of the other ones, or the other weapons that you have in the game, so you need to spend a lot more time actually attacking your enemies and kind of dishing up that damage for it actually to work out in the end, because your damage is so low and your output is like got these like tiny little numbers. I mean, if you look at these numbers on the screen compared to some of the other weapons here, you'll notice that the dual blades is fast, but it also is not that strong in my opinion. When I first tried the hammer, I thought this was going to go horribly because it's even slower than what I can think the greatsword's going to be, and it is. It's a really slow spec or weapon to use, but it has some really cool abilities, and it hits really damn hard. Honestly, I love it. Like, the hammer is probably one of my favorite, like, massive weapon kind of weapons to use in the game so far, in the demo, because it has this cool spinning ability that does, like, massive damage, and also in your attacks, you do, like, the spinning attack, and it's able to do damage, like, over, like, 100 damage, which is one of the highest numbers I've seen I was able to actually pop out in the demo, which is pretty damn crazy. So the hammer is very slow, but it is capable of dishing out numbers that feel good. And it's actually one of the fastest runs I had through, defeating the great Izuchi like in the quickest time, because I was able to dish out damage that was able to bring his like invisible health bar to 0 very damn quick. When you first try the hunting horn, you'll realize it's probably the most different weapon of everything you can try. The reason this is because you basically have a like big ass instrument as a kind of like hammer type of axe vibe thing here, and it's able to do buffs. Like, you have the self-improvement buff, you have the defense up. When you press like X twice in a row, if you press A twice in a row, you get attack up, you get defense up. If you press X and A at the same time, like multiple times in a row, you get health recovery. Like, you're basically like a massive support character, but you actually do massive damage once you actually have all these buffs up and you start like just pressing all these buttons, like, you in like A, X, A, X, X, A, X, A. Like, dude, like I got to this point where I was just throwing out damage and it was just super fun. I was like, dude, what? I was like, why is this actually going so damn well? It's one of my fastest runs as well with the hunting horn. The first time I tried the hunting horn, I completely sucked, but then I realized I need to do this whole like musical thing here at the top here, and you actually end up playing like a freaking monster doing damage that is crazy. And I don't know if this attack up and defense up actually works for a multiplayer team, because if it does, it will be one of the most overpowered weapons that you can get in the game, guaranteed, because of the buff that will apply to everyone. The next weapon is the Lance, and boy do I not like playing as the Lance. I don't know if it's just because I have no idea what I'm doing, but it has very low damage, very slow. It feels like it's supposed to be a tank, right? But I don't know how to play as a tank in this game, so I just feel silly all the time. And the dodging doesn't really dodge, like you don't roll over to the side, you kind of like just nudge a little bit to the left or the right, so it's very hard to get out of the way, and you just get smacked by everything the whole entire time. I guess your main like idea is to be standing in front of an enemy and just take attacks all the time, but I mean, if you know how to play a Lance, let me know in the comments below, like, what did I do wrong here, because I don't know how to play this thing to save my life. This is hands down the worst weapon that I had to play with. Then we have the Gunlance. Now this is a lance with a shield with a gun. This very confusing weapon to actually use here, but it does a lot more damage than the regular lance. It is capable of also shooting like close range shots into your enemy that does a lot of damage. So if you keep spamming like this, it just goes boof 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 into like its face. So it's great, but you obviously have to be in front of an enemy's face taking attacks here. You take a little bit more damage than a lance. At least it appeared like I was taking more damage than a regular lance would, but you're able to dish out more damage, I guess. So honestly, I don't like this lance play style. It's very slow. The rolling and like the dodging is really difficult to pull off, and I just didn't enjoy it. So maybe it's just not for me. If you do know how to play a gun lance, let me know in the comments below. Give us some strategies, a guide on how to play this, and yeah, let's move on to the next one. The next weapon is the switch axe. Very cool looking, weird axe kind of vibe weapon here. I like the look of it. It reminds me of a Kamaga kill for some reason, of that guy. You'll know who I'm talking about if you've seen that anime. It is a very cool, strong ass weapon. It's very fast. You get many attacks. It's kind of like what I would imagine a berserker would be like. I actually really like it. The first time I played it, I struggled a lot because it was very different and hard to pull off. But with the wire bugs and the attacks here that you can get out here, it has one of the better wire attack moves, if I could say so myself. And you are capable of dishing out damage really frequently, really fast. It's kind of like a mid-level kind of speed, so you're not like really agile, but you're not slow. You're a lot faster than a lance at least, but you're able to dish out mad big numbers like this. Once you're hitting numbers like over 30, you're gonna really notice that you're gonna be doing like a lot more effectively at killing the monsters quicker than you would with other weapons. Honestly, the switch axe I would recommend as one of my main go-to weapons to play as. The next weapon is the charge blade. This looks really interesting. Looks like she's got a train rail like on her weapon here, but on the weapon that I'm using doesn't really have it, so it's very confusing. It looks like her weapon might change as you play on in the game. She's actually very agile. She looks like a nun with a shield, a big ass kind of like polar arm bat thing that turns into like an X. It's kind of odd. It's fast. It does reasonable damage, but she's also very like weak to attacks. She gets smacked really hard when she does get hit, as I think all of all of the like heroes do. But honestly, I struggle to use her. Like she feels hard to use. Like, she's so agile, but, like, there's something I'm missing here. There's something that's difficult about her, and I haven't really figured out what it is. So I would kind of put her at an average kind of, like, level, skill level, but you definitely need to practice and get an idea for her. There are a lot of, like, other weapons that do a lot more damage for what she can do, in my opinion, so I wouldn't say she's the best at what she does, but she's alright, I guess. I mean, she's pretty average. Looking at the insect glaive, looks like you basically have a poisoned, like, polar arm, but you're wearing an Assassin's Creed kind of outfit, which is kind of weird looking, but it is, hands down, one of the coolest looking kind of weapons and, like, playstyle in the game, like, that I've played so far. It looks pretty damn awesome. Like, I gotta say, like, this is one of my favorite looking playstyles. I'm just disappointed with the numbers. Like, the attacks and the damage that you output here aren't that great. You are very agile. It does feel kind of weird because most of your skills allow you to, like, leave combat, like, instead of actually getting into combat. So it just feels like you're very agile, but for just, like, escaping. I don't know. Like, I wasn't very impressed with the damage output. Like, again, I'd put this at an average level, or the same as the charge blade, because you're able to kind of play fast, but the numbers that you output are really slow. Like, it just... It doesn't feel as impactful as using some of the bigger weapons in the game, to me. Possibly the easiest weapon to use is the light bowgun. The light bowgun is so agile, so easy, you can walk while shooting. It's the only kind of thing where you can really have this maneuverability, this mobility while attacking out of all the weapons that you're presented with in the game. All you have to try go for is headshots all the time, and you'll be getting some big numbers there. It's pretty average, it's on the same level as the charge blade and the kind of insect's glaive, so you're not going to be killing things really quickly, but you will be a lot more safe while doing this, because you can obviously run out the way. If you're playing in a multiplayer group, you literally just have to stand back and like fire the whole time. I mean, if you have someone tanking for you, honestly, you should probably use the heavy bowgun instead. But the light bowgun is actually really fun to play. It was one of the first ones I got to experience where I was like, oh my god, I'm actually not dying all the time. That's great. So if you're a beginner, definitely something to look into, but I would honestly prefer playing a melee kind of weapon in this game, because melee is like really the way to go for like learning how this game's going to work and understanding how bosses move, because in ranged you're just moving out of the way all the time. As I mentioned before, you also get a heavy bowgun, which is obviously, as you can understand, it is a much slower version of the light bowgun, because you're a lot heavier, you move slower, but you also have a lot more kind of like kit and like strength to use. I mean, you can go into rapid fire mode, which is pretty cool, using your A ability to like change your gun into rapid fire. As you can see, like that bar on the right side of the screen in the middle, which loads up. As it gets all the way to the bottom there, you can like just fire off shots there for big numbers. That's a lot of damage to output immediately, and you can also change your ammo. Obviously, with all the ranged weapons, which I didn't talk about with the light bowgun, you can change your weapons by pressing L and going to the left and then looking for your different ammo. You get like normal ammo, you get like piercing ammo where the bullets will go straight through, you get like sprayed ammo, which is like a shotgun. So you get kind of different types of variety of ammo to use. You also get like different ammo for different things that you can get there, like freeze ammo, lightning ammo, poison ammo. There's random different things all the ranged heroes can use, or the ranged classes, I mean. Possibly the strangest weapon for me is the bow, because it's kind of fits weirdly, and the one biggest thing that I don't like about this weapon is that it has one of the slowest dodging times, because you have to put your bow away first before you can move out the way. It's got a really slow dodge time. It does come with a lot of different kind of poison coatings and different coatings for your weapon, so it's pretty cool, and you can fire up to 3 arrows at once, though I haven't really figured out how you get it to shoot 3 arrows at once. If you are shooting an enemy down, like, you can actually do a lot of damage. If you can sometimes get it to like critical hit for like 16 damage for each shot. It seems to work really well when you shoot enemies in the face. So for all like ranged kind of classes weapons that you use in the game, definitely aim for the face. The bow is one of the hardest to use out of all of them. I thought it would be most agile and the most easiest. It is actually not. It is probably the hardest ranged weapon to use, in my opinion, out of all the ones that we've presented with. I mean, it is the one weapon I tried lost, and I still managed to die so many times after all the experience that I had, because she was so difficult to play. Like, it was just really confusing. So that is my video of talking about all 14 weapons that you can see in Monster Hunter Rise. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know in the comments below which ones are your favorite, which ones are you planning to play. Honestly, I'm torn between the hammer and the switch axe. Like, honestly, of those two, there's one of those I want to play. Like, I really like both of those playstyles. They were really fun. And maybe even the hunting horn, because of that like support kind of thing, depending on whether it can actually like buff people in multiplayer. If it does, hell yeah, I'm going hunting horn for multiplayer, because that would be crazy fun to play. And I'll see you guys in a future video. Thank you so much for watching.